listeners to the Day One Football Podcast. This is episode number 28. This is your host, Colin Aram, with my two lovely co-hosts, as always, Magic Mike and the Day One Daddy, Stephen King. How are you guys doing today? Mike, how are you feeling about that Bears game on Monday night?
Yeah, we're just not going to talk about that. I'll just throw it to Steve because I don't want to lose my cool.
Bears stink. That's all I have to say.
What about
you said it. So.
Your Broncos?
Hey, you know what? They're missing half their team due to injury. They still put up double-digit points on defending Super Bowl champs, and Drew Lock didn't look good. So I'm hoping better games come. I'm not sitting here saying that they're, supposed to be 5-1 like the Bears. So
5-2.
5-2 now, but they were 5-1 going into the game. So they got embarrassed for a 5-1 team. And I hope Mike cried a little bit last night. So
I was. Yeah. We just won't talk about it.
How do you, hey Steven, how do you feel about Drew Lock after 9 career starts, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions? Is he your guy?
Still,
Is he your guy still?
No, yeah, I'm good with him. He's still my guy for right now. I still want to see more. He's been battling injuries this year, and last year he missed the first 3 quarters of the season due to an injury. So I don't think we've seen fully healthy Drew Lock, and I don't think we've really seen an offense that you can really trust. I mean, they have 2 rookies starting in Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. And then Noah Fant was a rookie last year, and I'm still expecting a lot of the offense. The turnovers in the last game did not look good, so I think he needs to clean up a little bit of his game. But I think there's definitely room to grow. Next year is the deciding year where we'll see where he's at, and if he can turn this offense around. Sutton hopefully will be healthy, and everybody, Jeudy, KJ, they'll be second year. Fant will be in his 3rd year, so I'm excited next year. This year is a whatever year for me, so we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So that's enough of that talk about the Broncos. They're all sad. Yeah, missing Sutton definitely hurts him. I don't know. I think that just having that piece would definitely help him in that category with like touchdowns and stuff like that. But we'll start the podcast for real now. So we have some A1 news coming up as always, with some have a day segment, and then we have the buy low, the sell high, and the drops. So without further ado, time for the A1 news. So as always, we have injuries to report right away, and this one hits my favorite team, the Browns, as OBJ tears his ACL trying to tackle one of the defensive players that intercepted Baker. He's done for the year. Mike, what do you think about OBJ? I don't. Steven, actually, you go. You had OBJ in a league. How are you feeling?
I have him in a dynasty league, and honestly, I'm probably looking to sell. I know that I won't get as much as what I want for him, but this is it, torn ACL. He's done for the year, and when he comes back next year, he should be fine to play next year. It's just he will be rusty. You see people bounce back from torn ACLs, but the first 3-4 games after that, they don't look the same, and sometimes you never look the same after a torn ACL. So I would be looking to sell OBJ in dynasty leagues. Obviously, Jarvis gets a bump up this year, just target wise. I know they had a couple other guys that kind of showed out last game, but Jarvis, I think, is going to be the huge benefactor of OBJ going down. Mike?
I agree. I think it's time to sell him. You can probably still get a decent amount for him on namesake. I really don't see much more than that. It at least looked like a contact ACL, which isn't as bad as a non-contact, but that was an absolutely awful tackle, and I'd love to hear Colin's thoughts about it.
You know what? Like Steven said too, I think The way I look at it fantasy wise, it bumps up Jarvis again. I think Jarvis is the guy. But as Steven said as well, Harrison Bryant had a big game. Donovan People-Jones looks really good, and also Rashad Higgins finally comes back into play. Last year, you didn't see him much because OBJ came in, but the year before that, when it was Baker's rookie year, he was for the most part Baker's favorite target. And I know we're not going to really talk waiver, but if you see Rashad Higgins on your waiver wire, I would pick him up and just have him as a flyer on your deep bench for a little bit because Baker loves him and they have a great chemistry. So if it's Jarvis Higgins moving forward, I'm very excited to see. Actually, a crazy stat: without without OBJ, Baker has a 1 point or a 1.25 QBR rating, and with OBJ in the lineup, it's like 50. So I don't know if it's because he force feeds the ball to OBJ, which I think he does a lot, including that play that made the interception yesterday to start of the game, which is a terrible throw to no one, just trying to force feed OBJ. I think it's going to set him back in his element. I think you're going to see a different Baker moving forward as well. So I think he gets a bump up the rest of the season. And I know Steven has him in the dynasty, so 40 points on your bench, buddy. I think it's going to continue that way, but we'll talk about it later. But yeah, overall, it sucks that OBJ's gone. I don't know if that's his last game in a Browns jersey, which I could also see happen. But I'm not worried about the Browns in general. I think it actually opens up the offense more because he's not going to try and get it to OBJ constantly, as he's shown he has. So let's move on to the next thing on the list. Chris Godwin can't get away from the injuries here. I think it's his third or fourth injury of the season already. Luckily, it's been small, but he has to get finger surgery as he fractured it yesterday. So he's going to miss the upcoming week against the Giants for sure on their Monday night matchup. And yeah, I'm just unfortunate. I don't know if AB plays this weekend, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they use the offense. I don't know if it's a bump for Scotty Miller or what, but Mike, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking this is a slight bump for Scotty Miller. Maybe even look at a Tyler Johnson because I feel like Mike Evans is going to be force-fed the ball, and it's going to end up with him getting injured. He really can't stay healthy. I think that maybe a stash of Tyler Johnson, definitely a shot at Scotty Miller, but that's really all I see. Steve, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I feel so bad for Godwin because he was coming into this year with Brady. This offense was supposed to be so dynamic, and Godwin just can't stay healthy. He's already missed, I believe he's going to miss his fourth game this week of this season already. So it just sucks that Godwin hasn't been there. Obviously, Mike Evans will be great, but Brady just spreads the ball out so much that you never know who it's going to be week to week. And I think Godwin would have been the guy if he was healthy because he's the slot guy. I really like Gronk actually. I think Gronk is probably my number one. If he's out there, I don't think he'll be out there anymore after 2 monster weeks. But I think he's probably the benefactor there because I think Evans is still gonna get his share that he's pretty much had. I know Evans hasn't been elite this year, but he still had his targets. So Scotty Miller would be the first guy I'd pick up, but I think Gronk is somebody to look at for sure. I wouldn't sit him on your bench this week. Colin?
Yeah. So moving on, Kenyon Drake, another dud player that you drafted in the early rounds. He's going to miss roughly 2 weeks with an ankle tear or a tear in his ligament in his ankle. So they're saying about 2 to 3 weeks roughly. Chase Edmonds looks really good. So I think he might be able to break out now and be the guy again because he looked really good last year before they traded for Drake. So I think Chase Edmonds might have some leeway now, but they're on bye this week. So that takes away one of the weeks that, so luckily Drake won't miss too much time, I don't think, but if you are a Drake owner, but yeah, so Edmonds will be the guy for at least a week, maybe 2, but we'll see what happens. Mike, what are your thoughts on Kenyon Drake?
I really didn't like Drake. I was trying to trade for Edmonds in almost every league that I'm in because I think he is the better running back. But I just really, there's nothing really else to say. I think Edmonds starts to take even more away with this injury, and Cliff Kingsbury just really likes Edmonds. So, Steve, what are you seeing here?
I think the way that they used Kenyon Drake this year was a little odd. And we had super fan Jack Bryan on the pod, and he just pretty much just spelled it out perfectly. Is they're not using Drake the same as they did last year. You don't see him in the passing game, and the rushing attempts just don't seem like they just seem to be not. I don't know if he just doesn't have the burst because of the injury before the season started. Maybe he's not fully healthy. I think Edmonds is going to be phenomenal. We already saw it. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Edmonds has been super fantasy relevant even with the limited snaps because Drake has been on the field for 60+% of the snaps in the first half of the season. But Edmonds has still been fantasy relevant because of the pass catching work, and you're going to see him keep that. Plus, you're going to see him getting all the rushing attempts too. Now, Benjamin. Mike, do you see Benjamin getting the ball at all?
I honestly I see him maybe getting a couple attempts, maybe one or two targets, but I really don't see him doing all that much because I see him. I guess I could see him getting a couple touches, but I don't see him getting too much. I see Edmonds as like the workhorse back in the bigger fantasy option, but that's just me.
Yeah, I agree. I think you'll see Edmonds with 80+% of snaps on the field. I was just going through the rest of their roster, and they didn't have another running back with any snaps except for Jonathan Ward, and I don't know anything about this guy. Maybe he was in at fullback once. I don't know. So, Colin, we jump into the next.
Yeah. Before we move on, Mike, did you know anything about Eno? Like in college, is he like a good? Is he good?
Just bringing up his profile. He's more known as a satellite back. He's 5'9", 200. Pretty good burst, agility. Like he's a good prospect. His best comparable is Duke Johnson. Like I'd say they're pretty similar, but I don't see him being a breakout. He has a decent profile, but that's it for me, honestly.
Yeah, with a comparable like Duke, he's probably a good pass catcher in that sense. I don't know if and Kyler doesn't really use the running backs in that scenario, so maybe I don't know if he'll be effective at all, but we'll move on. So next on the injury report is another guy that's again just can't get away from the injuries. Deebo Samuel. He's going to miss the next couple of weeks with a hamstring injury as well. I guess it's like tightness. So with that being said, Brandon Ayuk is back to wide receiver 1 easily. This guy has looked good in flashes, and they have Seattle this upcoming week. So if you have Ayuk on your waiver wire in like a redraft, like I'd pick him up and be ready to play him because he's playing Seattle's D, and they're like one of the worst D in the league. So we'll see how that goes. Mike, any thoughts?
You said it. Ayuk's a wide receiver 1 now. Maybe even Kendrick Bourne, but I really only see Ayuk with fantasy value. Steve?
Yeah, same. Ayuk is the go-to here. I think he should be either started or flexed in pretty much any matchup because they're going to have to throw to him. I think Jerick McKinnon gets a bit of a bump too because of the pass catching work that he will receive. But other than that, like I'm not taking a shot on Kendrick Bourne because we already kind of saw that play out at the beginning of the season, and he had his games, but not reliable. So I'm not going to waste a roster spot on a guy that's going to maybe have a decent game on my bench. But yeah, it sucks. I just traded for Deebo, and now he's going to be on my bench injured. Colin?
Yeah, well, I don't know if McKinnon will actually have a value. If you saw what he did last week, he had 1 carry for -1 yard, and they used the undrafted rookie Jermichael Hasty a lot. So I don't know what they're going to do with him, but it's interesting.
Did you hear Kyle Shanahan saying that he planned to rest Jerick McKinnon this game?
Like, I didn't. That's weird though.
Like what are you doing? I was very mad with that because I don't think Jerick McKinnon.
I think Shanahan doesn't really care as long as he has someone that he can just put back there and be like, you run, and they're going to figure it out.
Tevin Coleman's projected to come back either this week or next week. So if if he is 100% healthy, I think Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon split the load. I don't think they want Jerick McKinnon as the guy, and I think that's the issue is they didn't want him as the guy, and so we'll see what happens. I hate the 49ers.
Well, I think it was weird because they brought in their guy that's a goal line back, like Jeff Wilson, like you run, but he actually had a sick game, then gets hurt. So, and then JaMychal Hasty actually had a lot of value too in his like short amount of time he was out there. He actually looked really well, but we'll see how they use that backfield moving forward. It's not a fun backfield to play week to week, considering Mike played McKinnon and got that. But move on to the next injury here. So A-Rob, Allen Robinson, the Chicago Bears, is being evaluated for the concussion. They'll know more throughout the week as he's in just they're just checking to see, not protocol yet, but they're just seeing if he actually has it or not. Mike, you watched most of that horrendous game. You saw the play, right? Can you explain it a little bit more?
Okay, so Allen Robinson did about a 10-yard button hook, turned around, caught the ball, and then got his head drove into the ground from a tackle from behind. It didn't look good. He was still in the game, and I believe the officials that are upstairs basically called him out of the game. I don't see this being a huge issue. I didn't see him stumble off the field or anything. It wasn't like it was a major concussion from what I've seen. But then again, there's always side effects to concussions that can resurface later in the week, and you really never know with a brain injury. But I expect him to be out there because it's not like it's a Thursday game or anything like that. So I expect him to be out there, but monitor it later on this week. Make sure before you throw him in your starting lineup. Steve?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that I'm not going to predict if he's going to be there or not because concussions are such a freak thing. Like he got hit in the head and then he played through it a little bit, but concussion symptoms can come, up to 48 hours after you actually get hit in the head. So it's tough to say right now. But yeah, we'll see if anything pops up on the injury report or if he ends up going to practice in the next couple of days. Colin?
Yeah, we'll move on to the next one here. We got Chris Carson, week to week with a foot sprain. Just that being said, Hyde is also apparently dealing with a tight hamstring after the game on Sunday, and Penny's also on the pup still. So with that being said, and also Travis Homer got hurt, so it looks like it's gonna be a DJ Dallas week. Mike, what do you think about that?
DJ, let's go. He was one of the rookies I've been looking at picking up everywhere. I got him in, I believe, the 5th round of a keeper draft, which is a 15-man keeper, so there's not much out there. I believe he went behind Adrian Peterson in that draft. So if he can actually start and look pretty good, I guess, then it's value for me. But I watched a bit. I believe he caught 2 passes this weekend, so he does have value in the receiving game, and he looked decent out of, I believe it was Miami, if I'm correct.
That is correct.
But yeah, a decent prospect, and yeah, I really would maybe take a stash on that, but I think that Carlos Hyde will be fine. It's just tightness, but he is an old geezer. So, Steve, what do you see in here?
I think they will give DJ Dallas some touches at least, and because not just because Carlos Hyde is going to be injured or whatnot. I think that this is going to be a little bit of an audition for next year, and not just for him, but for Penny as well. If we see DJ Dallas come out and look decent and respectable, Penny is probably going to be cut. He hasn't really done anything since he was drafted. And also for Carlos Hyde, who's on a 1-year deal, if we see DJ Dallas come out and, like I said, be decent and somewhat respectable on the field, Carson's pretty much a lock for next year because Carson runs really well for the Seahawks. So It's just we'll see what happens, and if he looks okay in a couple games, I would say he's a stash for dynasty for sure for next year or the year after that as well. Colin.
Yeah, just looking at his stats through so far this season, he's only had 2 rushing attempts for 8 yards, so 4 yards a carry, which is pretty decent. The unlimited amount of snap touches, obviously, and he's had 5 targets through the air, and he's caught 4 for 32 yards. So I think he's interesting play if they do have injury problems, and I don't know if this is going to play a factor too. Is it Chris Carson's? They have to sign him this year, right? Isn't he a UFA? Or is
Yeah,
he his 5th year?
he's a UFA after this year. Yeah.
So that could also play into a factor where they're like, okay, we have these 2 guys that we actually like still or whatnot. So they might just let him walk instead of paying a running back like Chris Carson. So, but that's for later on. Let's move on to the next one. This hits Steven home. Philip Lindsay in concussion protocol and is questionable for week 8. How are you feeling, Steven, on this?
He looked so good in that last game. He had 9 rushing attempts for 79 yards. He looked explosive. He looked phenomenal. I am so mad that he got injured because Philip Lindsay is my man, and I've been talking him up all year, and it just sucks. It just sucks. Melvin Gordon, definitely a play this week. He'll be the lead back. And this stinks. I think when I saw him get hit, he stumbled a little bit after he got hit, and you pretty much knew right there that he had a concussion. So it didn't look good. I'm going to say that he doesn't play this week after the hit, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Mike?
You said it. I honestly barely watched the game. I saw it was a snow game from what I've seen, but yeah, no, I got nothing for that. Colin?
Yeah, let's move on to the not practicing section. So this is CMC. He is listed as a long shot for Thursday Night Football, but they will reevaluate throughout the next couple of days with practice, see if he can go for it. And then a later update came out saying that he went to practice in a red jersey, took off the non-contact injured jersey, the red one, and put on the regular jersey. So I don't know if this guy's locked in for Thursday now or what, but Mike, what are you thinking about CMC?
I personally don't see him as playing Thursday. I really don't think they should rush it. I think they should let him go for another week. It is Thursday Night Football, so they will have an extended layoff after that. I see him playing next week, but Mike Davis, I don't think he's looked that great in the past couple of games. From what I know, he didn't look good against the Bears, but I'm not sure how he did last week. But I mean, if CMC's ready to go, I think you almost have to play him if there's no chance of injury. Steve, what are you seeing here?
Mike Davis had 7 rushing attempts for 12 yards last game.
Pretty good.
Yep, pretty amazing actually. I hear he's going to take over for CMC for the rest of the year. But no, when CMC comes back, I think Mike Davis has done enough to earn at least a little bit of a role, even if it's just to cut down CMC's snap share, save him a little bit because their team could maybe be looking for a playoff push later in the year. So I think when CMC comes back, you'll still see Mike Davis on the field, but I don't expect McCaffrey to be back for Thursday, but pretty much unless there are any setbacks, he should be back for the next game. Colin?
Yeah, and Matt Gruel also said that just because CMC is coming back doesn't mean Mike Davis is to disappear. So it's like Mike said that he's still going to have a bit of a role. I don't think he just disappears. I think Steven said it as well, but just touching on both what you guys said, like, yeah, he's not going away for sure. So like Steven said, he probably takes maybe like, say CMC was mostly out there for like 100% of snap share. So I think if you cut him back to like 80, I'm sure Mike Davis will get some touches still, just not fantasy relevant. I don't think with that 20%, but who knows? Mike, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, Matt Rule decided to bring out the smock this weekend. I just like for everyone to know that because that thing looks sick. I might get myself a Carolina Panthers smock because that light blue looked electric.
What about a Bears smock with Matt?
You know what? No, I don't ever want to mention Matt Nagy ever again. Cordero Patterson should not be on the field, and you should not throw a toss to him on 4th down. And God damn it,
His play calling is great.
just absolute dookie.
Yeah, we'll move on to the football news. So as we mentioned before, a little bit briefly, the Bucks did sign Antonio Brown. The clown is back on a 1-year deal for $1 million with incentives with the Bucks. Became official today. That being said, do you think he plays this weekend, or is this going to be a couple weeks, or do you think the NFL still has to like clear him technically?
I believe due to COVID and due to his suspension, he can't play this week. Could be wrong on that, but I think with COVID, he has to do a couple tests and he can be practicing next week. If I remember that correctly, if I don't, then I might have just been hearing that last week, but I'm pretty sure that he can't play till next week. But
So they're just going to give
Steve,
him
you
the
got
Nick.
anything?
Hey, they're going to give him the Nick Saban treatment. Just make him do 3 tests in like 3 hours. Like, you're good. It's all negative.
Yeah, and then I mean Graham Mertz looked incredible and then got COVID and now they're not even playing next week apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from what I've read, Brown won't be eligible to play until week 9.
I just think that's insane that they're allowing him to come back like nothing. They're like, yeah, you're good. But then you got guys like Josh Gordon who just smokes weed and they're like, yeah, you're never coming back. You degenerate. But you're fine. You beat a woman. You can come back anytime.
Wasn't he suspended, Colin? No, it wasn't for nothing, wasn't he? Didn't he miss this whole year because of his because he's
Yeah,
I'm
but
pretty
the way they said it was, I thought the way they did it was only 8 weeks. But the way I thought of it was like he had to be signed and then he had to be suspended for 8 weeks, not just hey, you just don't play for 8 weeks and just sit there. He could have done that anyways because maybe no one signed him. But
I'm pretty sure Josh Gordon had a lot of other drugs in his system as well, and I believe he got popped for performance enhancers from what I remember.
that's fine.
But I could be wrong.
It's Josh Gordon. Let him let him live his life.
You're just mad because that guy is a Browns legend because the Browns don't have any legends in the last 10 years.
Nick Chubb.
Yeah, where's Chubb now?
He's coming back. Soon.
Just so dejected.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for Josh, but he's signed to the Seahawks still and just hasn't been reinstated. So I don't know what's gonna go on there. But another familiar face of the past, Des Bryant signed to the Baltimore Ravens practice squad today as well. I don't know if he'll ever be signed to the official squad, but Mike, what are you thinking about Des being back?
I mean, Baltimore's receivers are trash. Like you got Hollywood Brown, who I really like, but honestly just doesn't really fit Lamar's play style because Lamar's not a great deep thrower, to be totally honest. But I see Dez as coming in and taking over for the trash bag that is Willie Snead, and just taking over in that role personally. But I don't know. It shouldn't be a big deal. But honestly, if Dez can come in and do something, good on him, because I did not see him coming back at all. But Steve?
Yeah, I think Dez would actually fit in pretty well with the way that Lamar plays because you see him targeting the big tight ends all the time, and I think throwing Dez out even outside or pretty much anywhere on the field, I think because he's a big body, I think that'll help Lamar out quite a bit. I think that'll open up Hollywood a little bit too. I mean, I don't mind Miles Boykin. I think that he could with more opportunity could have been a decent wide receiver, but really hasn't had too many looks. So I actually think that Dez will make it. I don't know to what extent, but I hope he does. I hope he does, Colin.
Yeah, so that ends our news segment. It is now time for the Have a Day segment. So, as always, start with quarterback, then we go to RB, wide receiver, tight end. And the top 10 QBs this week was number 1, Mr. Air Bear, Justin Herbert. Number 2, Kyler Murray. Number 3, Tom Brady. Number 4, Joey B. Number 5, Russell Wilson. Number 6, Baker Mayfield. Number 7, Carson Wentz. 8, Aaron Rodgers, 9, Deshaun Watson, and number 10, Drew Brees. Mike, who do you got?
I'm gonna go with Baker. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna go with Justin Herbert, and I'm just gonna keep continuing to say that I'm wrong. He looks absolutely incredible. He can run the ball. He can absolutely pass the ball. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 347 yards. I mean, and you can run 66 yards with a touchdown. I mean, that's gonna get you a starting job and a continuous starting job for the rest of ever. But Steve, who's your guy?
I just wanted to bring up Aaron Rodgers. I think that he had a big bounce back game after Tampa Bay pretty much shut him out. Um, Played against Houston. Houston's defense isn't the greatest, but I think rest of season, Aaron Rodgers is pretty much in my starting lineup against Minnesota. The 49ers, I think I'd still start him. I don't really like the corners. Um, Jacksonville, definitely starting him there. The Colts, on and off defense, I'd probably start him there. So I actually like Aaron Rodgers for the next couple of weeks and probably into the playoffs too. I think he probably might have one or two more down games because that's usually what happens with Aaron Rodgers. He'll probably throw up a stinker 3-point game like he just did. But I really like Aaron Rodgers rest of the season. Colin?
Yeah, my guy's obviously Baker. I touched on him a little bit earlier. It's really unfortunate that OBJ got hurt, but for some reason, this guy, once OBJ's gone, is dominant as he was in his rookie year when he came in. So I don't know if he's feeling dangerous the rest of the season. They have a really weak schedule, but I think Baker can actually have a sick rest of the season. And here's a fun one I didn't see till just now. Baker's red zone stats this year. He's 18 for 25, 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. So once he gets in the red zone, he's basically lights out. That's just if we're playing bad teams, then he's lights out because obviously the Steelers and Ravens are good. But it just from what I said before, like his QBR rating when he's not thrown to OB or when OBJ is not there is 125, and when he is there, it's like 65 or around there. So again, it sucks that we lost. You think with a star receiver he'd be better, but for some reason he's not. So I think he's definitely a play moving forward. I think they play the Raiders next week, so I think that again he's gonna have a sick day. Just touching on what he did against the Bengals this weekend, 0 for 5 in an interception in the first quarter. When then OBJ got injured, went 22 for 23 the rest of the way, 5 touchdowns, 297 yards. So the guy is a good quarterback. I think he just had some bad luck going through 4 head coaches and 4 different offensive coordinators through for like literally 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see. I know, Steven, you have him in Dynasty. I think it's a good play next week. But yeah, he's my QB of the week. I think this guy is going to bounce back the rest of the year.
He will be on my bench for the rest of the season, and if not, he will be on the waiver wire for you to grab because Baker stinks.
Yeah. How's Nick Foles and Mr. Drew Lock doing right now?
Do I have Drew Lock? Are you just?
I'm just saying in general.
Oh, I was going to say, because I have Nick Foles. I started Nick Foles this week over Baker. And as much as Baker put up like a, 40-point. Ours is a 6-point touchdown league. So I think Baker put up like 40 points in the league, and I sat him on my bench, and I'm still happy about it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's Baker. We'll move on to running backs here. So number 1, Jeff Wilson Jr. Number 2, James Robinson. Number 3, Todd Gurley. Number 4, Jamal Williams. Number 5, Alvin Kamara. Number 6, Antonio Gibson. Number 7, Gio Bernard. Number 8, Chase Edmonds. Number 9, Kareem Hunt. And number 10, Boston Scott. Mike, who do you got?
I'm going to talk about the guy with the slowest spin move I've ever seen. It rivals that of mine, and that's Boston Scott. I absolutely love watching this guy run because, as I said, it is the slowest spin move. I think he maybe takes 8 steps to actually spin around, but he had a great game. He excelled as the lead back. We told you that last week that he was going to excel. Steve's sleeper, from what I remember, from the first episode, and I'm going to throw it to him to gloat.
Yeah, I love Boston Scott, and it's I don't know. I just watch him play, and I'm like, this little 4'8" guy is just running through people. I actually don't know how tall he is. Can one of you fact check this
Five
while I'm
six.
talking?
5'6".
Oh,
So
it's so pretty much 4'8", right?
basically,
Okay, so I just love the way that he plays. So yeah, he was my sleeper. I think first episode or second episode. Oh, long time ago. And look at him up here now, top 10, loving it. But yeah, I'll move on to my guy, Antonio Gibson. I'm still now. This is he made it on this list, and I'm pretty sure he's made it on this list a couple times. But I'm so indecisive of what I want to do with him because he's had big games, then he's had bad games. He's only on the field for 50% of snaps usually, like not even half the time, and yet he's still getting like he's putting up good fantasy numbers. So honestly, I have no idea what to do with him. If you have him, Mike, are you like if you have Antonio Gibson, do you start him?
I I personally, but that's just me.
Colin, if you have Antonio Gibson, are you starting him?
I already have him, and yes, I've been starting him. I had to. Guys, guy's been dominant for a few weeks, especially because he catches.
He had 0 receptions last week, Colin.
I know, but he had a sick game on the ground. I'm saying before that, he was catching like 5 balls a game.
Colin, do you want to have a pint bet? I'm gonna guarantee Antonio Gibson has 0 receptions like this coming up week.
Well, he's on a bye, so I have
I thought I had you. I thought I had you. Okay, but yeah, I'm probably gonna sell Gibson. Honestly, I don't think he's gonna be this for this year in redraft leagues. I'm gonna try to sell him. I just don't like how he's only on the field for 47% of snaps, 36 the week before. So I'm probably gonna try to get maybe package him with a maybe Marvin Jones and try to get trade up in running backs for maybe I don't know. James Robinson would be a good grab, I think. Colin?
Yeah, my guy's gonna be Chase Edmonds. We touched on him a little bit earlier. Kenyon Drake down with an injury. This guy is explosive out of the backfield. Every game he's played, he has limited touches, but he's somehow the RB 24 in the year. 6 to 5 touches averaging per week, but he's averaging over 6 yards a carry right now. Just again, and then in the receiving game, Kyler loves him. He went 7 for 7 this past week with 87 yards. 2 weeks ago before that, 5 catches on 6 of targets for 56 yards. Before that, 5 catches again for 6 targets for a touchdown. So the guy gets targets out of the backfield. He looks good. Even King Cliffberry. Oh my God, did I get? Yeah, I did.
King?
King Cliffberry.
Oh man, guys, it's so hard that name. But
Cliff
whatever. Cliff Kingsbury.
Kingsbury.
Kingsbury. He he said he's an elite running back, and I think we're gonna see it moving forward. So that's why I like Chase Edmonds, and I think you're gonna see him a few more times this year on the top 10 list. So he's on a bye this week. Most redraft leagues, I think he should be on the waiver wire. I'd pick him up and just stash him for the week and then start playing him because he's gonna have some big weeks coming up. But we can move on to the wide receivers. Number 1, Tyler Lockett. Number 2, Devonta Adams. 3, Deontay Johnson. Number 4, A.J. Brown. Number 5, DJ Moore. Number 6, Tyler Boyd. Number 7, Scotty Miller. Number 8, Chris Godwin. Number 9, DeAndre Hopkins. And number 10, Nelson Aguilar. Mike.
DJ Moore, baby. I love this guy. He's a great wide receiver, and he showed it this week. You can say that he got his points on touchdowns, and I would say you are correct, but I don't care. I think that this is probably the best game that DJ Moore had and probably the worst game that Robbie Anderson had. I don't think Robbie Anderson got that many targets against the Saints defense. Their offense just kind of stunk. I'm actually wrong. He got 8 targets, but DJ Moore stole the touchdowns, which is what I love to see. Yeah, I think you definitely sell him, but we'll get to that later. Steve, who's your guy?
I really, really wanted to talk about Tyler Boyd and how he's pretty much the number 1 guy in Cincinnati. but I have to go with DeAndre Hopkins just to talk about King Cliffsbury. Um,
That insane coach Kling Kiffberry.
Klings Cliffbury is one of the best coaches in the league. And I know that I had Adam Gase at MVP. I think I'm going to have to change it to Klings Kingslerberry.
Kiff Klingsberry.
Cliff
So
Cliff Brickleberry.
Okay. But yeah, so DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a top 3 end of season wide receiver barring injury. No point in me really talking about him other than making fun of Colin. So start your DeAndre Hopkins unless he's on bye. Colin?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna take Tyler Boyd since you didn't. Like you said, guy's been just dominant, wide receiver 9 on the year. He's had some big games. The only thing he hasn't done really is get in the end zone, but it's the Bengals, so it doesn't surprise me. 2 touchdowns on the year, but he gets targeted constantly. Joey keeps throwing for over 300 yards, and the guy is going to get targeted and constantly thrown to. He's his safety belt in the outfield, on the offense there, so he likes
In
to
the
throw to him.
outfield.
Yeah, outfield.
In the
Yep.
outfield.
I'm having a great
Angels in
game,
the
guys.
outfield, baby.
Colin's having
day.
a great game.
Yeah. Yeah, so just like downfield, he's his safety belt. He looks great. I think he can. I think it's gonna be him and T Higgins moving forward, and that's a great stack if you have those options. If you can get Joe Burrow and Tyler Boyd or T Higgins, I think that's a great stack to play week in and week out because the Bengals are so bad. He's gonna have to keep throwing, and even if it's garbage time, the guy's gonna throw for like 300 yards a game, and those 2 guys are gonna eat. So yeah, Tyler Boyd, beast. He's gonna continue to be in this list, I think, too. All right, let me take a quick breather here. Holy. All right, so tight ends. Number 1, Harrison Bryant. Number 2, Rob Gronkowski. Number 3, TJ Hawkinson. Number 4, Darren Wallard. And number 5, Logan Thomas. Mike, what are you thinking?
I'm going to talk about Dan Arnold because he plays for the insane coach of Kiff Klingsbury. Oh, no, I'm actually going to talk about TJ Hawkinson, and it's because he's a top 5 tight end right now in PPR formats. He's just been solid. He's hasn't scored less than 7.3 in half PPR. He's just a consistent option. He's going to give you a decent week to week, and I think that he's almost a buy low because he hasn't really had boom games, and you might be able to sell him for or buy him for a tight end that kind of boomed at the start and it's kind of fizzled off. But Steve, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, we already talked about Gronk a little bit, but I think Gronk's going to be a weekly starter rest of season. I think he took a year off and he didn't play with Brady. He's just getting back into football shape now. He's going to be dominant. He looks first couple of games there was no separation. He wasn't getting open. He was blocking a lot, but I think the last couple of games Gronk has actually looked really good, and he's had a ton of targets in the last couple of games. So I love Gronk, and if you can grab him for cheap, I would. Colin?
Yeah, my guy's going to be Harrison Bryant of the Cleveland Browns, number 1 this week. Without Austin Hooper there, he is the tight end 1 on that team, and Baker does like throwing to the tight ends with their 2 tight end sets that Kevin Stefanski likes using. I think Harrison's going to continue to have some big weeks moving forward. This past week, 4 catches on 5 targets, 2 touchdowns, end zone guy. He had a touchdown against the Washington football team in week 3 as well, and he likes to target them around the end zone in the red zone area. So I think Bryant's the guy moving forward, and I think he's a good play week in, week out. He's a really good tight end overall. And again, like I said before on the show, he's been compared to as a George Kittle type of player. So, I mean, he's looking good, and we'll see if that continues. Okay, so let's move on to the final segment of today's show. We have some buy lows, sell highs, and some drops. So, Mike, who's your buy low this week?
My buy low is the guy that burns a lot of people these past couple years. He was supposed to be great. Everyone was hyping him up, and he put out a dud. But this year, Corey Davis looks good. He hasn't scored below 9.4 points in half PPR. He he looks like he's finally doing something. He guess he took that fourth year jump and he's out there for the bulk of the snaps. AJ Brown is an injury risk. I don't see where you don't try and buy Corey Davis low. Everyone already kind of hates him. I know that he's on a lot of trade blocks because people are like, "Oh, Corey Davis, this guy's bad. I'll just sell him." But I think he's actually good this year. Steve, what are you seeing here?
So you're saying it's going to be like a Devontae Parker, like a fourth, fifth year superstardom type of season?
I wouldn't say superstardom, but I say he's fantasy relevant.
Yeah, Devontae Parker was terrible through his. I mean, his best fantasy finish in his first 4 years was 50, and then his fifth year in PPR he finished as the number 11. So I don't think Corey Davis is there, but I do agree with you that he is fantasy relevant, and I think it's more matchup based. Or if Brown goes down, you can definitely flex Corey Davis. I like it. Mine is Mike Evans. He's been Mike Evans is underachieved the last couple games, and with Chris Godwin being out for who knows how long, and Godwin's been dealing with injuries. Mike Evans has been dealing with injuries himself too. So I think when Evans is actually healthy, which could be next game, it could be the week after, who knows? I think he's going to be one of those guys that helps you win your leagues. When he does get healthy, he will create more separation. I think Brady is still trying to figure out who his weapons are. I mean, they've only played together for 7 games, so I'm excited to see what Mike Evans does. I would say buy low. I know that it's a little scary. The last 2 games, he's only had 2 targets, but I'm okay with it. Colin?
Yeah, my buy low is Jonnu Smith. Again, like Mike with the Tennessee Titans, and like you, Steven, a couple underachieving weeks. Week 6 against Houston, he had 1 reception on 2 targets, 13 yards, and he got his ankle injury. And then this past week, they played the Steelers, the best defense in the league. And again, he wasn't really used per se. He had 70% of snaps, but again, he only had 4 targets overall, 1 catch for 9 yards. So a couple bad weeks in a row for Jonnu, but I think he bounces back big this week against Cincy. And then he has a pretty easy schedule overall the next few weeks. So I think if you can buy him low now, because maybe the owner is like, oh, this guy's gonna just drop off now. He had 4 weeks of dominance, and now he's just kind of garbage. I would definitely target him. I think he's still a top 10. I mean, top 10, but I think he can be a top 5 tight end overall in the season. He is the tight end 4 right now overall, so I think you can still play Jonnu week in, week out and still get fantasy relevance. One of the targets was in the end zone, and he dropped it. So, I mean, he could have had actually a decent week, but yeah, just I would try to buy him low as possible now because he's playing Cincy, and Cincy's very bad. So he's going to get some targets. So let's move on to that sell high. Mike, who do you got?
I got DJ Moore, the guy I personally really like, but I think you can sell him high right now. I think you can convince an owner that this is the start of Moore, and that you can get a decent price for him. He was a 3rd round pick in most leagues, sometimes an early 4th if people were fading him. But I think that you can pick up a good asset for him, and that's personally why I'd sell him high. So, Steve, who's your guy?
My guy is Todd Gurley, and I love Todd Gurley so far. What he's done this year, I have him in a couple leagues, and he has been really good. Running back 9 on the year and half PPR, so he's up there. But I think you can upgrade a little bit from Todd Gurley just by selling his name and his touchdowns. I mean, he has 7 touchdowns already in the first 7 games. Is he gonna score 16 touchdowns? Well, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, he's been really, really good touchdown wise, yardage wise. He's been okay, but you're pretty much relying on touchdowns for him to help you in fantasy. So touchdowns are really hard to predict. I'm going to try to trade up for somebody more safe, and that's why I am selling high on Todd Gurley. Colin?
Yeah, so my guys actually could have been a buy low as well. Mike Davis, we talked about earlier in the show, Carolina Panthers running back. He is a sell high right now for me and could have been a buy low just because he had a bad week. Only seven, like Steven said, 7 carries for 12 yards, just not good. But again, they had a tough run defense against them, and he still caught the ball out of the backfield to have a little bit of relevancy. Like he had like 7 points. I think it was like 4 catches, something like that in a half PPR league. But that being said, I would sell high because, like we said earlier in the show, CMC is most likely coming back, and if you can get anything for him now before he basically becomes irrelevant fantasy wise, I think it's a good time to sell him. I don't know what you'd get considering he came off a bad week, but with that news of CMC, if you say like you can just get any piece to maybe help you, like maybe another running back that might have a little bit more relevancy, and the next at the second half of the season at least, maybe try and do it. But that's why I'd put him as a sell high right now. So with our drops, Mike, who was your drop of the week?
My drop is, I believe, a buy low that I had a couple weeks ago, or a guy that I was looking at picking up off the waiver wire, and that's James Washington. I think at the start of the season we said it was going to be either Deontay Johnson or James Washington that's going to break out. And although Washington, oh my goodness, now I'm going like Colin here. Although Deontay Johnson had a breakout game but then got injured, I just don't see where James Washington gets opportunities, and I personally wouldn't hold on to him in any type of league. But I think he's just been passed up. Steve, who's your guy?
So this might sound a little weird after he just went off for almost 15 fantasy points, but it's Sterling Shepard. Partly because of the injuries, he's very injury prone. We have no idea what's going to happen. Second, I believe that Evan Ingram is going to break out in the next little while, and I think that he's going to take a lot of Sterling Shepard's targets. But he's 41% owned. He has a tough matchup against Tampa Bay next week, and then he plays Washington, who's been decent. Still hasn't had a bye yet this year, so I'm just not a fan of Sterling Shepard. He's 41% owned, and so there's 41% of you that are a bunch of idiots and should drop him. Colin?
That's a bold, hot take of you to say Evan Ingram's going to break out when that guy's looked awful. Can't even catch the ball, but I don't know. I think Sterling Shepard, yeah, I could see your point with the injuries, but that team has no really offensive weapons. I think Sterling Shepard is probably good enough to sit on your bench still, but I don't know. I don't know, Steve. What are you thinking about? I don't understand. Where are you coming from, Evan Ingram? Why do you think he's going to break out?
I watched the last game and I watched them force feed him the ball. He had 9 targets last game, so I think that they scripted the game to get Evan Ingram open, and it didn't work out last game. But I think they're going to keep going with it. Evan Ingram is probably the most athletic guy on that team, other than Daniel Jones, who tripped on a touchdown run. But I love Evan Ingram. He is super talented. He has dealt with a little bit of drops this year, and I think he actually fumbled last game. But I think Evan Ingram's going to be good for the rest of the season.
Okay, I'll move on to my drop. So it's Michael Gallup. No surprise here. I think at this point, this guy we're really high on at the beginning of the year. We thought he'd be like potentially a top 20 wide receiver. We had him pretty high on our list for the most part out of Dallas, especially with Dak there. But now with no Dak, no Andy Dalton, I don't even know the third guy was called. What's his name, Mike? Ben? Was it Ben? Who's the third guy? Who's this quarterback?
Ben
DiNucci or some shit? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he had 2 targets, no catches. Hasn't really had a fantasy relevant week, really. And I think maybe I think it was like week one or 2. He had a decent week. Besides that, he's been basically like irrelevant, which really unfortunate. I think hopefully he gets traded because, yeah, that just sucks for him. I think that offense looks horrendous right now. That whole team's just a dumpster fire, and I would just drop him. There's no relevancy. I think Cooper's the guy that's going to get at least maybe enough to get a relevant week, maybe Lamb, but Gallup's basically irrelevant at this point, and that's why I drop him. But let's close out the show with a quick waiver wire. So I'll just list off some names. like before we said, Rashad Higgins, he's going to be the second wide receiver for the Browns moving forward. He's 1% owned. He had over 100 receiving yards this past week and like 11 targets. So pick him up if you can. Harrison Bryant, same thing. Without Hooper there for another 3 weeks, he's going to be relevant. He's a tight end 1 for the Browns, and he's going to continue to get some targets. He's 2% rostered. Another Brown, Donovan People-Jones, 1% rostered. He had a big play at the end of the game, big touchdown. Maybe he sees more snaps. He looked really good when he got the ball. Another guy, Wayne Gallman from the Giants, running back, 2% rostered. Looked good this past week against the Eagles. Gus Edwards, 9% rostered. He is the top running back on the Ravens right now, considering Ingram's out. Nelson Aguilar, 6% rostered. He looked good for some reason with Carr. I don't know if he'll continue to do that, but he's looked good so far. 40% rostered. Corey Davis, I know he's a buy low by Mike, but he's still not owned in 60% of leagues, so pick him up if you can.
Nothing lower than free, so.
Yeah. And then Steven brought it up. Sterling Shepard, 40% rostered, so he could be a decent pickup potentially if you need a plug-in for bye weeks. Same as Davis. But I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on the waiver wire. We can touch on it a little bit or close out the show.
I don't mind Nelson Aguilar. For some reason, he found his hands when he went to the Raiders, but I don't know. That's really all I got. I already talked on Corey Davis, so yeah, Steve.
I like the Wayne Gallman pickup. He looked decent in the Thursday night game after Devonta Freeman got hurt. So I don't mind that if you're desperate because of injuries / bye weeks, which a lot of people are right now. Obviously, Aaron Jones didn't play this past week, and there were bye weeks. Dalvin Cook missed. So I like the Wayne Gallman ad. Gus Edwards, I don't know how I feel about that. We'll see how that goes. But obviously, Colin made this list. There are 3 Browns on here, so we can move on.
Where's Cliff Kingsbury?
Yeah, where's King's Cloveberry?
Where's Clyde Clinberry? I don't know. Just touching on what I said, kind of. I would pick up Bryant and Higgins more than Donovan. Donovan's a stretch. I think in a dynasty he'd be good, but I don't know. I think he'd probably be rostered in dynasty leagues. But yep, let's close out the show. So I just want to thank everyone for listening. Follow us on Twitter at Day1Football, on Instagram Day1FF. So subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on all the major platforms, and on YouTube. And have a great day, and we'll see you Thursday. Later.
See y'all later.